Good morning, it's Adam Sweet from Sweet Music Studio. Today we're going to go through the first few tunes in the book that I asked you to get the last time by Craig Duncan called You Can Teach Yourself Fiddling. People always ask me this question, why are we using a fiddle book to learn how to play the mandolin? And the reason why we're using this book instead of the mandolin version is the mandolin version is in tab, which I find particularly distasteful. I want you to learn how to read music like this using a regular staff, because music will allow you eventually, once you are fluent in it, will allow you to play any style of music, whereas tab is only available generally for specific tunes. So that's why we're using this book instead of the mandolin version. By the way, the mandolin version works with the same tunes, so if you already have it and you also get the book I recommend, you can work through both at the same time. Okay, so the first tune in the book is Mary Had a Little Lamb. Everybody knows that melody. It's in the key of A, and sounds like this. Okay, you notice I started on C sharp, second finger, on the 4th fret A string, and ended on A, open A. And just a reminder that there are 4 quarter notes per measure, and each quarter note is exactly 1/4 the value of the whole measure. So if the whole measure has 4 beats, then the quarter note equals one of those beats. Okay, so the second tune in the book is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And we're going to start on open A and end on open A. Same deal, 4 quarter notes per measure. Okay, pretty straightforward. You already know the melody, so that's very helpful in learning how to read, is working through tunes that you know already. Okay, so on page 10 is lesson 3, and in lesson 3 we start introducing other types of beats, or other types of rhythmical notes. In this case, we're talking about quarter notes, which we already know, half notes, which are 2 beats per, or 2 quarter notes per note, dotted half notes, which are 3 quarter notes per note, and the whole note, which we already know. And the tune we're going to work on next is called Liza Jane, and it's in the book because it has all of those elements that I just mentioned. Okay, the next tune is very similar to the first one we just played. It's called Camptown Races. Most Americans of a certain generation know this tune. It goes like this. Okay, there's a couple tunes that you probably are familiar with the melody, at least, introducing the dotted half note as a rhythmical form, which is 3 beats or 3/4 notes per note. Next, we're going to introduce the 8th note, and if you've been following along my scale instructionals, you'll know that 8th notes are one of the patterns that I recommend that you practice with your scale. So 8/8 notes per note would be the scale pattern. So this is the 8th note. There are 2 8th notes for every 1/4 note. So half of a quarter note is an 8th note. It's logical, right? So that means that if there are 4 quarter notes per measure, you can divide those quarter notes into 8th notes, and there will be 8 8th notes per measure. So if you if you play a quarter note as, then 8th notes are going to be double the speed. Excuse me. Right? Okay. So the first tune we're going to learn is Buffalo Gals, also in the key of A, and introducing the concept of 8th notes. Okay, so that's 8th notes. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a new type of tune. Many of you know the melody, and what makes this interesting and the reason why it's in the book is it's a modal tune which uses the same finger spacing as in the key of A. And it sounds modal because it starts and ends on the first finger B instead of open A. There is a comma at the end of the second line, notice in the score, and this means to stop playing briefly as if you were taking a breath. And this is how it sounds. Okay, so that just gives you a couple new things to think about in terms of how notes will occur in the same scale or same key, but in a different mode, and also a new sort of way of thinking about phrasing by putting in a breath or phrasing marking at the end of a phrase. Lesson 5 introduces the concept of repeat signs. So repeat signs are an indicator that tells you what section they want you to play twice. And they'll put it in there, as you can see in the book, by a double line, a thick line on the end, a regular line next to it, and then 2 dots next to the regular line. And that will indicate that you play up to that line, and then you go back to the beginning and you repeat that line. And then you go on to the next line, and you'll notice there's another repeat at the end of the tune. But this time you'll see that the repeat goes to another double line with a double dot on the second line. So that indicates that you play the second line to the end, then you go back and play the second line again. You don't go back to the beginning yet. But once you're done playing the whole tune, then you can go back to the beginning and repeat the whole thing again. It's just a shortcut, a way to indicate what they want you to play without having to write the whole thing out. The example they use is a tune called Shortening Bread. Everybody knows that melody. And I'll just say repeat at when it's time to repeat. Repeat. Okay, I don't know if you got the repeats, but anyway, it's in the book, so you shouldn't miss it. The next the next concept we're going to introduce is the first and second ending, and it's just another artifice for indicating what notes should be repeated and what notes should not. And you'll see at the end of the top line, there's a bar, and then a 1 and a repeat sign. And then the bar is extended and there's a 2 and a repeat sign. And what it means is when you get to the end the first time, you play the part where it says 1. And then you go back to the beginning and then you play it again. But this time, instead of playing the part that says 1 at the end, you'll skip that and you'll play the part that says 2 at the end. And then, and then you go on to the second part. And the tune is Oh Susanna. And we're still working through eighth notes here. Okay, so that introduces the concept of first and second endings. There's another tune in the book that comes next called Cindy, which introduces the D string. So far we've been playing only on the A and the E. And I'm going to let you try it on your own. Right now I'm just going to skip it and move on to lesson 6, which is the D major scale. So far, everything we've done has been in the A major scale. Now, the D major scale has 2 sharps, and it starts on open D. So this is the D string. So we would start with open D, but the intervals are going to be the same as they are for A. So root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, or D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And you probably noticed that there were 2 sharps in it. A has 3 sharps, and D has 2 sharps. And the sharps are F sharp and C sharp. Okay, so I'm going to let you start working on the D scale on your own. I'm not going to spend any more time on it now. If you have any questions, you can head over to my website at sweetmusicstudio.net, where you can ask me a question. If you're a current student of mine, you can ask me a question through Slack. Okay, so the first tune we're going to learn in the key of D is called Dixie. And some of you of a certain age will recognize this melody. Okay, that's a great little tune because it incorporates all of the notes in the 1-octave D major scale, and it also incorporates all of the different techniques that we've learned up to this point: quarter notes, half notes, dotted half notes, eighth notes. Okay, now we're going to move on to lesson 7. And lesson 7 introduces what are called different time signatures. Up until this point, we've been working only with one type of time signature, which is 4/4, or 4 quarter notes per measure. But now we're going to introduce the concept of different time signatures. So take a look at this page. The time signatures that are most popular and the ones that are in this book are 4/4, which we've already done, 3/4, which just means 3 quarter notes per measure, 2/4, which means 2 quarter notes per measure, 6/8, which means 6/8 notes per measure. There are lots of other different types of time signatures, and we're not going to. This book doesn't cover them all, but some of my favorites are 9/8. 9/8 is the time signature for slip jigs. Slip jigs typically have 9/8 notes per measure. 12/8, which is a type of dance called a slide. It's also a very popular time signature used by a composer named Bach. And there's also multiple other time signatures depending on things like the culture where the dances come from, or the pattern of rhythm, and so on. So we're just going to go into the ones I already mentioned: 3/4 time and 2/4 time. This lesson also indicates a new concept called rests. So a rest means you take a break, right? So in musical terms, a rest is where you don't play. And there are rests for each of the different types of notes. So an eighth note will have an eighth note rest. A quarter note will have a quarter note rest. A half note will have a half rest. And a whole note will have a whole rest. And so take a look at that section in lesson 7 on page 18, and just go over that and just get comfortable with what the rests look like. Because at some point we're going to learn some tunes with rests in it. Okay, so the next tune we're going to learn is in 2/4, and as I just said, 2/4 means 2 quarter notes per note. And that just is the count, but those 2 quarter notes could be 1 half note, or could be 4 eighth notes, or a combination of eighth notes and quarter notes. And this is called Wildwood Flower. Rest. Rest. Okay, did you hear those rests in there? Those were quarter note rests. Okay, now we're going to introduce a concept that is called cut time. And time is just a very simple way of telling you what the number of beats will be per measure. And cut time is half of that. Now, time, when somebody says time, or time in sheet music, is usually indicated by the letter C. And that just means that's a symbol that indicates 4 beats per minute, 4 beats per measure, 4 quarter notes per measure. So cut time will be half of that. It's just a symbol that you need to learn. So we're going to use a tune called Angeline the Baker to learn how to play in cut time. So Angeline the Baker is a lot of fun to play. Once you learn the tune and you can pick up the pace a little bit, that tune is a lot of fun to play with your friends. Oh, I should probably say, I know I've said it many times before, but I'll just repeat it here, that one of the reasons why I like this book is it not only has the melodies and instructions on how to play everything, but it also has the chords for all of the tunes so that you can play it with your friends. Okay, so now we're going to kind of move slowly into some more progressive material. We're going to play a tune called Soldier's Joy, which is going to have what's called an accidental in it, which just means that they change a standard note from the way it's written to slightly different, either raised by one fret or lowered by one fret. So in the case of Soldier's Joy, there is a low 2 or a low second finger, and see if you can tell where it occurs. Could you tell where it was? Yes, that's right. The high 2 on the E string, the second finger. If you recall from the when we were playing tunes in the key of A, that finger is up on the 4th fret. But in the key of D, that finger is down on the 3rd fret because there's no G sharp in the key of D. There's only F sharp and C sharp. All right, so we're going to do another one and see if you can catch this one. This is from a tune called Going to Boston. Did you catch it? It was the 2 on the A string, the low C. So instead of playing a C sharp, which is second finger on the 4th fret A string, I played a C natural, which is second finger on the 3rd fret. And it's indicated in the music as a natural sign before the note. So that tells you what you're going to do with that note. So normally in the key of D, the second finger on the A would be a C sharp, right? But if they want you to play it as a natural, they put a little natural symbol just before it in the sheet music, so you know that you're going to play it on the 3rd fret instead of the 4th fret. Let's see. The next page, lesson 9, is the last one I'm going to do today. It's the G scale. And so far we've done tunes in the key of A, in the A scale, in the key of D, and the key of G. And G being the last one that I'm going to do today. If you have already gone through all of my previous videos on playing scales, you can probably already play the G scale, so I'm not going to repeat it here. If you haven't, I suggest that you pause this video now and go back through the playlist and find the one about playing scales, because I always start with G and I go through it in depth on how to play it. So pause this video now, go watch the tutorial on how to play scales in G, and then come back and finish this video. Okay, so the key of G has only one sharp, and remember, the key of D had 2 sharps, and the key of A had 3 sharps. And oh, another thing about that video, that other tutorial video, it talks a little bit. I talk a little bit about the sharps and how you can remember them and what they are and how they fit into this whole thing. G major scale has 1 sharp, and the G string is the first string on your mandolin. D major scale has 2 sharps, and the D string is the second string on your mandolin. A major scale has 3 sharps, and A string is the third string on your mandolin. And E major scale has 4 sharps, and E is the fourth string on your mandolin. So that's a quick and dirty way to remember how many sharps are in a given key by by the layout of the strings on your mandolin. And if you're like me and you can think of things virtually, if you go back a fifth from G would be C, which would have no sharps or flats, and then go back a fifth, it would be F, which would have 1 flat, and then B flat, E flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and C flat. And then down here it would be B would be the next one up with 5 sharps. F sharp would be 6, and C sharp would be 7. So that's just a sort of a way of thinking how many sharps or how many flats there are based on how they are formatted on your mandolin. Anyway, I go into that in a lot of detail in another video. So like I said before, go through my playlists and look for something about learning to read music. I think I covered a little bit in there. The circle of fifths, I cover it in there. Anyway, it's an important lesson to learn, so I recommend you take the time to learn it. Okay, so we're in the key of G, which means there's only 1 sharp, F sharp. So that means that every F is going to be raised by 1 fret. So high 2 on the D string, high 1 on the E string. But everything else that you would normally sharp, like you would normally sharp the C, second finger on the A string if you were in the key of A, or in the key of D, but it's going to be natural in the key of G. So keep that in mind. Okay, so the first tune we're going to learn is called Flop-Eared Mule, and it's in 4/4 time in the key of G. Okay, so that's enough for today. I recommend that you go back over everything that we've already done today and play through all the tunes and try to work towards playing them from memory. Initially, of course, you're going to be looking at your fingers and hearing the notes and remembering how to play it by looking at it. But eventually you're going to get to a point after you've played it a number of times where you don't need to look at your fingers every time and you can play it by ear. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that these are very familiar melodies. So you'll be able to make associations between what you already know and where you put your finger on the fretboard. So go back through the first few chapters and try to work on putting the tunes there into memory. Play Liza Jane in Lesson 3 in the key of D, starting with the second finger on the D string. Then you can also try to do the same tune but in a different key, in the key of G, by starting the tune with the second finger on the G string. Play Camptown Races in Lesson 3 by starting on the A string, and then go back and play it again by starting on the G string, by playing it in G by starting on the D string. Same thing with Buffalo Gals in Lesson 4. You can play it in G by starting on the G string. Shortening Bread and Oh Susanna on Lesson 5. Same thing. You can play both of those tunes in the key of D and in the key of G. And finally, practice the A, D, and G scales, one octave, naming the notes by letter as you play, and also remembering where you put your fingers, because for each scale, while the intervals are the same, the placement of the fingers is different. So I hope that was helpful to you. Don't forget, if you haven't gotten this book, I want you to go ahead and invest in it, and because this is the one we're going to be working out of for a while. It's only $10, I think, on Amazon, $10 or $11. It's not very much. It comes with a CD of the author playing the tunes on the fiddle, so that might be helpful if you want to be reminded about how the tunes go. And you can also refer back to this video and others that I've done. Head over to my website at www.sweetmusicstudio.net, where you can learn more about me and register for lessons with me online, and also find out about what are some of the other workshops and projects that I have planned for the remainder of this coronavirus. We're going to really take advantage of all this extra time to spend a lot of time learning music together. All right, well, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.